With Hashem's loving grace, welcome to our Let's Be Our Best monthly series, sponsored by wonderful friends at Chazak and the fantastic Chesed organization, Chickens for Shabbos. The Midrash says that a guest should always begin with saying praise for his host. Well, that's easy when it comes to Chazak, because I'm going to tell you a few words about Chazak. It was founded by my two esteemed friends, Rabbi Ilan and Rabbi Yaniv Meirov from Queens in New York City. And these two wonderful brothers, they show how one person, and especially two people working together, they can literally change the world. Because thanks to Chazak, thousands of children have moved over from secular education to Torah education. And that's remaking the map of American Jewry. But not only that, they're spreading Torah all around the world. And that's why I'm so happy to coordinate with them, to work together with Chazak. I also want to thank Rabbi Aboff, Chazak's project coordinator, for his vital role in bringing Torah to so many people around the globe. And at the end of today's shur, I'll tell you a few words about Chickens for Shabbos, which is actually a wing of Yad Lazer, the fantastic powerhouse of Chesed all around the world. And you know them well here in Israel and in the United States. Okay, tonight's lesson is entitled Stay on Track. It's the sixth lesson of our Be Your Best series. And you stick with these lessons, you're truly going to be your best. You're going to find great sides and abilities that you never dreamed you had. So what life is like, being on a railroad track, your life and the way you pursue your life is being on your own track. Imagine that Hashem gives every train its own track and it can't jump track. Hashem gives every person their own track. That's their path in life. So our mission in life could be compared to a railroad track. And a person who's doing the right thing, you say in English slang, he's on track. He's doing the right thing. That's why he's on track. He's doing the right thing. But if someone is on a tangent, making a mistake, they say the guy is sorely off track. And he's got to do what he can to get back on track. Now, just imagine this. The train that goes from New York City to Washington, it goes from north to south. And it's got its own special track. Now, if it started moving southward on a track that was intended for northern traffic, like, for example, a train that goes from Atlanta to Boston, that's the northern track. So suppose the New York to Washington train would be on the northern track instead of the southern track. Eventually, it would be a collision. And like manner, if any of us, we attempt to travel a path in life, which is our own track, that it's not our own track, it's someone else's track or something that's not meant for us, we don't reach our destination. We don't perform a mission in life. We don't succeed in achieving our goal. And we certainly don't succeed in what we're supposed to be doing. And that makes us frustrated. So in short, when we're off track, when we're off our own track, we either get lost or we suffer all types of collisions in life. And there's plenty of collisions in life. There's emotional collisions, there's spiritual collisions, and there's even physical collisions. Anybody knows driving a car and a person is out of his lane, you can crash very easily. And that's another reason why we should never, ever compare ourselves to anyone else on earth. If you want to go back and review Be Your Best lesson number 5, we talked about each one having his own tools and his or her own backpack. Okay, this is your own self, and you have no reason to be jealous of anyone else because you have your own tools. They have their tools. So we have to refrain from the gross unfairness of comparing ourselves to anyone else. And we know we shouldn't compare ourselves to anyone else. So why do we compare our spouses to other people's spouses? We say to our wives hurtful things. Oh, this guy's wife does something better. Our wife said their husband hurtful things. This guy's husband is better. He makes a better living or whatever. Such comparisons, they destroy relationships. When you compare other people, look at a person for his or her own value, and it's especially important in a relationship, especially important in marriage, and it's important between a parent and a child. Because if a parent wants a child to be well-adjusted and to teach a child, you can't teach a child by criticism. It doesn't work. Criticism, no, who likes criticism? Would you like if your boss is critical to you all day long? You wouldn't like that. So we best teach our children by positive reinforcement, showing them the good points. So the parents have to remember that your children, they're not your clones. They're not here for your aggrandizement. They're not here for your own prestige. Your children, each one is a separate neshama, it's a separate soul. And Hashem gives them to you for safekeeping. And just like your soul has its own mission on earth, every one of those children has its own mission on earth. So comparisons, they're unfair. Not only they're unfair, they're cruel, and they're certainly counterproductive. When you compare someone to someone else, it doesn't help them be better. You're not doing them a favor. So as far as yourself goes, don't ever jump track and don't try to pursue someone else's path because it's not your path. And like we said last month, if a person has weak eyesight, then he wasn't meant to fly an F-16. So don't compare him, oh, the guy that flies an F-16, he's doing a better job. He wasn't meant to fly an F-16. He was meant to play a violin. So maybe the pilot of the F-16 can't play the violin. So why compare the two? And if it's, you don't need 20/20 vision to play the violin. You put on glasses and can read the notes just as well. But that's not advisable for a fighter pilot. Fighter pilot's a perfect vision. And with vision, that doesn't bother a musician. We mentioned last lesson that there are several world famous musicians are blind or crippled. Can you imagine if Yitzhak Perlman, the famous violinist, would want to be on Israel's Olympic team as a track star running the 100-yard dash? He'd be really frustrated. But he's on his own path, and he's the world's greatest violinist. And being in a wheelchair, that doesn't bother him from being the best he possibly can. And that's what we need to do, to be the best we possibly can. So with that in mind, don't ever lose heart if you think you have a lack of talent or a lack of dexterity, and because you're probably comparing yourself to someone else. And don't have pipe dreams of being someone else. Focus on your talents, focus on your unique aptitudes, and don't compare yourself with anyone on earth. This is a mistake. Especially it comes from the Western media and advertising. Advertising shows you can't be a man if you don't smoke a Marlboro. What do you want, lung cancer? The Marlboro cowboy died of lung cancer. Or you can't be a woman if a guy doesn't pick you up, you're not wearing a long white gown and traveling around in Mercedes. Women can be a woman on the bus, a wonderful woman on the subway also. Don't listen, don't pay attention to the magazine articles, the movie articles telling you what you have to be and what you don't have to be. And don't let them discourage you. Direct your energies to cultivating the very best you can, the tools you have at your disposal, which are the wonderful talents and aptitudes and qualities that Hashem gave you, and no one else on earth has them. So don't ever be discouraged by anyone else because people, but my path is difficult. Oh yeah, the right path. Who says it's easy? And don't be discouraged from difficulties. Difficulties are usually good. It's a sign that you're successful because the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, doesn't want you to succeed. So he puts obstacles in your way, but the obstacles make you stronger. Give this easy, but I'll use the example, the military athletics. In a successful army, every soldier has a training path designed for that particular soldier. There's a lot of different jobs in the army, and every soldier has his own task. For example, teaching a pilot just how to fly a plane, that's not sufficient. Because to be a good pilot, he's got to learn a lot of things. He's got to learn physical fitness. He's got to be in good shape. He's got to learn navigation. He's got to be good in mathematics. He's got to learn aerodynamics. He's got to learn meteorology. He's got to be a semi-weatherman. He's got to learn weapons ordnance to understand how his weapons work. He's got to learn how to parachute. If he ever did jump out of a plane, that's just a few things a pilot has to learn. There's a lot more. But a pilot trainee, he doesn't complain when he's sent to cope for survival school in 7 days in the desert. Yeah, he's got to learn if he's ever down behind enemy lines or down in some wilderness, and he's got to learn how to survive with no food or anything, how to live off the land. That's his survival school. So he doesn't become sad and depressed when he has to navigate on foot through difficult terrain and complain, hey, I'm a pilot. What am I doing these silly ground exercises for? Listen, pilot cadet, those exercises might save your life one day. And they're going to make you a better pilot. Okay, so he knows everything along his training path. A good pilot knows that it's all for his ultimate success and benefit. And that's what Hashem does. Hashem often gives us difficulties on our training path, our path in life. And that's because Hashem is tailoring a unique path, which is our own track. And Hashem wants every one of us to stay on his or her own track. And Hashem gives us the experiences that we'll need to perform our job best in life. And it gives us what we need to do to utilize our talents. It gives the ability to use our talents the very best. Okay, so every trial and every tribulation and every difficulty and every challenge in life, every ordeal, it's just another stepping stone to help us reach our goal successfully. Imagine our goal. We have to cross this raging river, and it's not easy to cross it. You have to go from stone to stone and maybe grab an overlying branch and another stone. Every one of these difficulties, it's a difficulty in life, but it gets us to the other side. It gets us to completing our mission. So knowing that every difficulty in our lives is part of that tailor-made path, we're on track. It's if it was a railroad track, it'd be another tie in a railroad track. Okay, every difficulty, everything we had to do in life, every challenge we have in life, this is all that tailor-made track in life that Hashem creates for each of us. And there's no room at all for sadness or despair. There's no room at all. Why be just sad about difficulties in life? That's Hashem doing. Everything comes from Hashem. It's first principle of Emunah. He alone did, does, and will do. And have to understand and have to remember that each one of us is a beloved child of Hashem. The Torah says that. Bonim Hashem, atem l'Hashem lokechem. So we're beloved sons and daughters of Hashem. So the difficulties in life we're getting from beloved Father in heaven. And so we can be happy. So what we have to do to be happy is, why are we sad? Why are we depressed? Why don't we feel our best? Because we're all trapped in this emotional jail. Now we learn how to get out of this emotional jail. So a person asks himself, he says, I hear this question all the time from people. Why don't I make it to the top? Why don't I achieve my potential? How come I never feel like I'm making upward progress? And so many people, they feel like they're treading water. They're not going anywhere. Like a swimmer swims. Someone treads water, just stay where he is. Or somebody's just staying afloat and not accomplishing anything. But let me ask you something. Cherished friends, who wants a life of treading water? Who wants a life of just staying afloat? I don't know many people like that want that. Everybody wants to reach the top. But so few people really reach the top, really become happy and successful. So why is that? Because they're trapped in the emotional jail. They don't get out. And so they don't make an effort. And they don't hustle because they might make a lot of noise in the process, but they don't go anywhere. Why? Because they're just running around inside this emotional jail. What's inside the emotional jail? That's you've got all this non-consequential media, the Facebook and social media. You're not accomplishing anything. Just making a lot of noise and wasting time. Maybe publicize yourself. You're not going anywhere. So don't let, another problem with the social media. I mean, there are people, young people have committed suicide because other people put labels on them and then they make fun of them. This happened to high school children. Okay, when you're in your formative years, maybe somebody stuck a label on you, or maybe you're still stuck in that emotional jail. Now, you better yet, they built an emotional jail for you and they stuck you inside. How'd they do that? Even subconscious, you didn't realize it. Maybe your teachers or your parents or your friends, they called you dumb or coward or lazy or ugly or uncoordinated, or they said something nasty to you. They said you're a failure or you're a spaz, heaven forbid, something like that. Person gets in his mind and he's convinced of it. And he says, well, wait, maybe I am like that. So how many people we speak to and tell them, oh, go for it, go do this. It's, no, I can't do this. No, I never succeed. No, that's the emotional jail. Get out of there. Of course you can succeed. You know why? Because somebody trapped you in emotional jail. And somebody said, oh, you can't do anything. That's why you never tried out for the school play. Because when the mom told you to take out the trash, you didn't want to, she called you stupid. And that's in your mind. Yes, I'm stupid. I can't remember the lines. I can't remember. How can I do the play? My mother says I'm stupid. This is what your subconscious is telling you. But it's not like that. It's not like that. Maybe you could be a great actor in a school play. And you surmise that if you can't succeed in doing a small task, you'll never learn an entire task. Well, maybe you had this dream to learn Krav Maga or to learn Taekwondo or to learn karate, but you never did. You know why? Because when you were 9, you didn't want to fight this 12-year-old bully. And you came home and your dad called you a coward. You're no coward. You're no coward. If your dad was, let's say he's 5'10" and comes over this 6'10" linebacker that weighs 350 pounds, and your dad going to fight him? Your dad's 5'10" and 180? No, back down. So dad wouldn't do that. Why did he call you that as a 9-year-old boy? But this still sticks in your head. You're still in that emotional jail. Get out of that. Try and remember these things that happen. It's not true. It's not true. You are successful. You have to look in the mirror and tell yourself, I am successful. I can do. Hashem gave me my own talents, my own aptitudes. I don't have to be judged by anyone else. Somebody calls you ugly. You know what that's ugly? Somebody once called a big Talmud Chacham, a Torah scholar, called the little old man in the Gemara ugly. So you know what he said to him? He said, you learn Torah? You say I'm ugly? You go to the creator that made me and tell him that he makes it ugly creations. Well, this Talmud Chacham, he was certainly embarrassed. He knew that little old man, that they told him off really well. That old man chastised him and he begged for forgiveness. And the little old man said, I'm not going to forgive you until you go and tell the creator that he makes ugly creations. He didn't know what to do. So finally they came into town and the whole town came out to greet this Talmud Chacham, this Torah scholar. And he said to the people in the town, this is the guy you come out to greet? He didn't have very good character. Oh, no, they told him what happened. So forgive him, forgive him, forgive him. He says, I'll forgive you, but don't ever do that to anyone else. Well, this guy certainly learned the lesson. Okay, somebody ever calls you something that's detrimental is saying something detrimental about the creator. So it's not you that is the person that's not okay. It's the person that's trying to put a label on you that's not okay. So Hashem, he didn't create you faulty. He gave you talents. He didn't give you. If Hashem created you 5'6" and not 6'7", are you faulty because you can't play in the NBA? That everybody in the NBA is 6'6" and up. Okay, that's not faulty. That's the way it created. Because your job is not to play in the NBA. All right. So because you were in this emotional jail, you never succeeded in school. Somebody said you're dumb, and somebody said you're lazy because one day you didn't feel like washing the dishes or washing the floor, and your mom called you lazy. And so you have this dream that maybe you want to be a commando in the army or a fighter pilot, go to Israel and serve there. Oh, but your mother said lazy. Said, I'm lazy. I can't go through that training. I can't do anything. You're in this emotional jail. You say, I can't, because you're still listening to labels that people gave when you're young. And this is a scar on your neshama. And it takes a lot of work. Beloved brothers and sisters, it takes a lot of work, but we can escape from that emotional jail and we can cure those scars. One thing we have to talk to Hashem. Hashem, help me get past that. That's all business. Hashem, help show me my good qualities. Hashem, help me strengthen them. Give me, and this is why we need to speak to Hashem every day in our own language, in our own jargon, in our own slang. Hashem understands Brooklyn slang, and he understands Houston, Texas slang, and he understands Russian slang. Whatever slang, wherever you talk, your own vocabulary, your own language, Hebrew, Russian, Spanish, English, it doesn't matter. Talk to Hashem. And Hashem, you are Hashem's beloved son. You are Hashem's beloved daughter. And Hashem will be happy to show you what you're good in. Okay. So it's obvious that a person can't climb a mountain if he's trapped in emotional jail. And the worse a person assumes the shape of the jail cell, just like a plant that assumes the shape, the plant's roots assume the plate of plant. So we get this square thinking, our mind becomes like an emotional jail cell. So we got to break out of this emotional jail cell right now in order to get out and get on our track. Okay, so if someone ever called you a coward, I'll prove to you right now you're not a coward. I'll help you. Don't have to go through this long. Somebody wants to call you a coward, I'll prove you right now you're not a coward. Think of something you believe in with all your heart. Okay, think of something, some ideal that makes your life worth living. You'd go to great lengths to defend that. Okay, that's courage. That's courage. If you're watching this lesson, it means you love Hashem. Okay, so suppose you had 20 Nazi soldiers that put guns at your head and are forcing you to say there's no Hashem in the world. You're going to say, pull the trigger. That's the greatest courage in the world. You'd make it into the Gemara. That's the greatest courage in the world. And Kiddush Hashem, and every one of you would do that. Okay, so who can tell you you're a coward? You're no coward. And suppose someone says, oh, you're ugly. I made a comment, something that you're ugly. They're blind. They can't see because the Creator creates each creation with its own intrinsic beauty. This is not my words. This is the words of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in the Zohar. Hashem creates each creation with its own intrinsic beauty because Hashem is the master creator. So someone is calling you ugly, Hashem is saying something about the creator, that the creator is faulty, and that is blasphemy. That's epicursis. That is really punishable. You don't want to go there. I don't feel any envy for a person that calls another person ugly, person makes a derogatory comment about another person. Because especially if it's damaging, if a person hits somebody in the face and gives them a black eye, you could see the damage. But you can't see the damage that some derogatory comment does in another person's soul. Not only that, but there's even bigger damage of the blasphemy, talking against the creator, talking against Hashem. That's bad news, because the core truth is that Hashem is the master creator that designs each of us in a way that performs his best task on earth. And I'll give you an example so you understand that. Okay, people would think, oh, Rolls Royce, that's a beautiful car, Mercedes, beautiful car, Lamborghini, that's a more beautiful car, Ferrari, wonderful, beautiful car. Okay, tractor, track full of mud, and maybe it's got tractor works in a cow shed. Oh, it's got all kinds of goo on it. Okay, so what would you do? You'd be rather a tractor or Ferrari? All right, you want to be a Ferrari. But what if your job was to raise cattle? What if your job was to be a farmer? What if your job was to grow corn? You couldn't do your job with a Ferrari or with a Lamborghini. Just like if your job was to be a race car driver, you couldn't do it with a tractor. Each thing, we don't look, a tractor is not beautiful or ugly compared to a Ferrari or Lamborghini. A tractor is built the way it's built to do its job on earth. Therefore, you, beloved brother and sister, you are not ugly. Heaven forbid, you're beautiful. You're built beautiful to do your job on earth. And you have to understand that. And don't let anyone else define who you are. You define who you are. And that's breaking out of the emotional jail. And that means that we do some good, powerful self-assessment. We evaluate our strengths and weaknesses. And the more we get to know ourselves, the less we are vulnerable to get thrown into this emotional jail that the people throw us into. All right. So now break out of jail, and now we can start climbing. We say, wait a second. A lot of people say, Rabbi Lazer, heard your lesson. That's great. But I still am not sure which is the best direction for me, even though I've done a lot of self-assessment. All right. Here we have another tool we can use. That's called a life guide. For some people, it's a rabbi, it's a spiritual guide. Life is somebody you trust. And it's a coach. You can't have, even if you have a winning athlete, a champion athlete, and a champion coach. Even if you've got a Rambo, successful, bold soldier, needs a good commander to guide him. Okay. So even the best commandos in the army, they have local scouts when they're navigating, and they're navigating through strange terrain. Like if you're going through the desert in Israeli reconnaissance, they have Bedouin scouts that they know they're born in the desert. They know the way around the desert. Like you know your way around Queens or Brooklyn, wherever you're born. Okay, so some people, it's the same way that a person needs a spiritual guide, because just like a scout in the desert can guide soldiers to avoid the pitfalls of an unfamiliar area, all kinds of dangers that would be save their lives and save them costly mistakes. So some people say rabbi, some people say spiritual coach, some people say life coach, or I like this term life guide because it's a synthesis of spiritual guide and life coach. But this is in addition to our own self-assessment and our own personal prayer, our own personal relationship with Hashem. Okay, so what does this do for us? Same way as a scout. A life guide can help us. It's an objective opinion where if he really knows us and he cares about us, then can help us from making mistakes. And I'll give you an example how with vertigo. Let me tell you what vertigo is. People hear the term vertigo. I think there was a movie, Vertigo. Vertigo is a term that pilots use to describe a situation called spatial disorientation. What it means when a pilot approaches the speed of sound, it does a little bit strange things to the brain, especially when he's flying over clear blue sky with no clouds and flying over water, or even blue sky with clouds that reflect in the water. So with the spatial disorientation, Sometimes a pilot doesn't up, the expression, you don't know where you're up or down. That's a pilot with vertigo. When he's flying on this clear blue day over the water, he sometimes can confuse boot up and down. Now, Menachem Begin's son, may he rest in peace, Menachem Begin's son, of blessed memory, was a fighter pilot in the Israeli Air Force, and he was flying over the Mediterranean on this exact clear blue day that I'm describing, and he got vertigo, and he thought he was ascending in the sky, and he landed in the water. He hit the water flat with that full speed in a jet plane, a jet fighter, and he got killed. So what do they teach pilots? Well, the first thing a pilot learns is not to trust his own judgment when he's up there. He has to pay attention to his avionics. Avionics are his navigation and the navigation instruments on the dashboard, on a pilot's dashboard, an instrument panel, and they tell him what his elevation is, and they say which way is up and which way is down, and which way is leaning. Okay, so today's jet pilots, they undergo rigid training to avoid vertigo, and they learn to trust their avionics. And then once again, the avionics are these sophisticated flight instruments that tell the pilot his speed, his course, his direction, his altitude, and the position of the airplane's axis in regards to the earth. And he's got this screen that shows him exactly where he is. So they tell pilot, don't trust your own judgment, trust the instrument panel, trust the avionics. And that's where he knows it's up and down. So a pilot has to have unshaken belief in his instrument panel, and that's vital to his survival. Just like we have to have unshaken belief in Hashem. And what happens to us is people can experience a lot of emotional vertigo where they don't know whether they're up or down, and they trust their own judgment. And they trust their own judgment, and they make serious mistakes. How many people have said to a good advised parent, oh, don't tell me who I marry, I'm going to marry who I want to marry. Okay, and they don't listen to the family, the suggestion, they don't listen here, and they go find some person, and maybe for good looks or for money or for something, and then shortly after the wedding, they're in divorce court. Oh, but they didn't want to listen to anybody. But someone ahead of time could see the pitfalls, and an objective opinion can help you. It is with every step in life. And that is a key to get out of the emotional jail. A lot of times that spiritual guide or that good advisor, the family rabbi, can give you a key to get out of spiritual jail that they're trusted in. So that's why we have to have a trusty, knowledgeable, and upright life guide that could keep us on an even keel and a path of success. So if you don't yet have a spiritual guide, a life coach, or a personal Rav, keep your eyes open for a person that knows you well. Person's got to be intelligent, it's got to be modest, got to be God-fearing, and he's got to have strong emunah, and he's got to have a good character, and he has to care about you, give you advice what's good for you, not what's good for himself. He has to put his own vested interests aside and give you advice what's good for yourself. And just like a pilot flying that aircraft has to keep one eye on the control panel and the other eye on where he's flying, then that way he avoids vertigo. So if we're navigating our way through life, we have to keep an eye and ear open to our life guide. And that way we avoid the spiritual, rather than spatial, the spiritual disorientation that could cause us a crash landing in life. So don't ever forget that Hashem creates each one of us with our own special talent, unique trait, and you're no exception. You've heard me say this. This is for the third time, this lesson, and I'll say it for the fourth time again and again and again to understand that you are successful. You have the capability of being your best. That's what these lessons are all about, being your best, and that you have this skills and this package of talents that no one else has because you have a mission in life that no one else has. It's your personal mission. So if you're unhappy in life and you don't feel fulfilled, it's because you haven't yet tapped your rich resources, or you're not going for the right goal. You're not on your track in life. So you have to get on your track in life. Don't put the blame on other people. Take responsibility for yourself and go for your dream. If you have the talent to develop a cure for cancer, you're not going to be happy as a cashier in a drugstore. And if Hashem gave you a brilliant mind, you're going to be very unhappy wasting your life in front of a television set. So wait and see how much your life improves once you start cultivating your own special abilities. You'll be a lot happier with yourself, and you'll be at peace with the world around you, and other people are going to like you a lot more too. So until you find those special qualities and talents that we're talking about, you haven't started living a satisfying life. So let's go for it. Because the Creator, once again, fifth time, gives every single human one outstanding quality in a raw state, waiting to be developed. It's like a diamond. You've got this diamond inside of you, and it's your job to polish it. And once you polish it, a diamond, it reflects light and reflect the light and get you on your path. So unlike the South African mind, you don't have to travel to the far corners of Earth to discover yourself. And just by implementing the advice of our Be Your Best lessons, let's be our best, you can really be your best. All right, so we now, as Hashem should help you achieve what you want to do, find your real talents in life, and it doesn't matter. Don't be afraid to make a new beginning, whether you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 80, 90, or 100. You can always make a new beginning. Keep a smile on your face, and Hashem should help you be successful. Amen. And we've just devoted a half hour to establishing our track in life and where we want to go in life. And we're now want to introduce you to our sponsors, Chicken for Shabbos. Chicken for Shabbos is a branch of Yad Eliezer. It's part of the great Chesed organization in Eretz Yisrael. Chickens for Shabbos, the power behind it is our good friend, Rabbi Neumann. And Rabbi Neumann, he does things that other people don't do. There are women, what we call agunot, women whose husbands have up and left, and they haven't received a get. They can't start a new life, and they're often left with no money and no support, and they're outright poverty. There are also women, they're divorced women. They're trying to raise families, raise kids, and maybe their exes don't pay child support, or they've gone somewhere across the sea, somewhere else. And there are people like this that just don't have what to eat. People for Shabbos, Chickens for Shabbos steps up to bat and finds these families and helps them put food on the table in ways you can't believe. I think they've got an intel better than FBI. The way they find these families, see so much good in Israel and in America also. So it's a mitzvah. Go down here, see Chickens for Shabbos, chickensforshabbos.com. Go in there, and your friend Lazer Brody strongly suggests you do. And they have no operating expenses. All that money goes to putting food on the table for poor people. So do that mitzvah, and Hashem will bless you that you should never, ever know need or poverty, and should have so much abundance in material and spiritual wealth and all your heart's wishes for the very best. Amen. See you next month.